Welcome to the Whispers of Deep Time. I'm Alan, your host, and this is a podcast where science meets faith. Each podcast will tackle various topics from God to geology and life in the universe, while searching for clues in our very existence. Join us as we take an objective view of the universe, searching for the telltale signs of design, and most importantly, the designer. Before we go any further, and for full disclosure, we are people of faith, believers in a creator and believers in scientific evidence. But just because we are people of faith, that doesn't mean that we will not be objective on our journey. Did the universe have a beginning? Because if it did, the implications are enormous. This episode will examine the observational evidence, a bit of the physics involved, and the philosophical and theological implications. There's really only two sources of information that leads us to the belief that there was a beginning to the universe: empirical evidence from the scientific world and biblical evidence from the world of faith. There's two sources of information that we have concerning the beginning of the universe. One comes from the world of science, one comes from the world of faith. Today we're going to explore both as we dig through the chaos, the order, and look for inferences or empirical evidence as to the origin. So today we're going to look at the architecture of reality. In doing so, we're going to look through two lenses. The first lens is the lens of science. Science explains the mechanism, data, physical laws, and the exact processes that brought about the beginning. Faith, through the other lens, explores the meaning, the purpose, the source, and the philosophical intent. We are searching for clues of design by looking objectively at the hard data of the universe. Throughout the early history of science, most scientists accepted that the universe was eternal. It was static. And for a number of centuries, a materialist philosophy assumed that the universe was eternal, requiring no beginning and no need for a cause. But in the 1920s, the universe began to be seen as a dynamic universe. Edwin Hubble observed galactic redshift, proving that the universe is expanding. Einstein's equations of general relativity confirmed this dynamic state. So, the conclusion would have to be that if space is expanding today, reversing the clock means it was smaller and denser in the past. It had a definitive boundary, the beginning. So let's dig a little deeper into that thought. There are three basic pillars of a finite cosmos. The first one is cosmic expansion, as we just discussed. Galactic redshifts indicate space itself is stretching. Then we have cosmic microwave background radiation, which is the residual microwave radiation from a hot, dense, early state of the universe. And then we have primordial nucleosynthesis, which is observed abundances of hydrogen, helium, and lithium, which match early Earth universe models. And next we have theoretical physics, which gives us the math and the equations to help us better understand what has been going on within the universe. The Borde-Guth-Vilenkin theorem, BGV theorem for short, says that any universe that has been expanding on average cannot be past eternal. It must have a starting point. So, if space-time, matter, energy, and physical laws had a distinct beginning, then the universe is contingent. It is not self-explanatory and relies on an external cause for its existence. Therefore, the cause must exist outside of the following parameters. It must be non-spatial, non-temporal, immaterial, powerful, and capable of the structured order that we see within the universe. Beyond a beginning, the universe appears finely tuned, perfectly structured. There are constants such as the cosmological constant, the strength of gravity, the ratio of fundamental forces. All of these must fall within extraordinarily narrow ranges for life to exist. Any minor deviations would prevent star formation, stable chemistry, or long-lived galaxies. This is not a controversial claim within physics. The debate here concerns an explanation of the processes. Some of the options include physical necessity, the multiverse selection, and intelligent design. Physical necessity lacks evidence, the multiverse remains speculative, and design remains as a live explanatory candidate for the universe. The universe is perfectly ordered, yet it is not a rigid, predictable clockwork machine. Woven directly into this profound order is an essential element of chaos. Chaos doesn't mean randomness with no rules. It refers to exact deterministic rules that are extremely sensitive to initial conditions. Chaos must operate under the rules of the physical constants of the universe. So now we see a perfectly ordered universe, yet it's not a rigid, predictable clockwork machine. Woven directly into this profound order is an essential element of chaos. Chaos does not mean randomness with no rules. It refers to exact deterministic rules that are extremely sensitive to initial condition. The universe is also perfectly balanced. We have order and we have randomness. This is the edge of chaos, a point where it's stable enough to persist and flexible enough to adapt. Too much order results in stagnation, so nothing new happens. Pure randomness means that there's too much chaos, and that would result in instability, and nothing could endure. Some real-world manifestations are weather systems. They're governed strictly by thermodynamics and fluid dynamics. Minute temperature changes radically alter storm paths, but the result is that nature follows rules. But the future isn't locked into place. Then we have biology and evolution. DNA encodes information with astonishing rule-bound precision. Environmental stress and microscopic mutations introduce variation, and the result is that it's adaptable and that we have life. And then we have human free will that adds to the chaos. The brain's neural networks obey the physics of electromagnetism, but highly sensitive to tiny inputs, a word, a mood. But the result is its meaningful, unpredetermined choices without breaking physical laws, the laws of nature. Okay, so now let's get back and look at two separate frameworks for origins. We have, of course, a scientific view that the beginning of the universe was an extremely hot, dense state. Early conditions were chaotic, but they were governed by physical laws. The biblical view is that Genesis chapter 1 verse 2 describes the earth as formless and void, a state of disorder before creation is structured. The source of that order from a scientific view is that order arises from natural laws, gravity and thermodynamics. The biblical view is that order comes from God's creative will to carve out and to structure the world. And sustaining the system, the scientific view of that is that the laws of nature continuously govern matter and energy. The biblical view is that God continuously sustains creation. Colossians 1:17 says that in Him all things hold together. We have two very different frameworks, but we do have some surprising overlaps. We have science, which studies the observable mechanics, theology, which studies the ancient texts. The first thing is that we see in both is order emerging from chaos. Science observes the structure forming from chaos, from cosmic instability, and Scripture depicts God bringing boundaries and meaning to the formless void. Chaos, number two, is restrained. Scientifically, chaotic systems still follow exact equations. Biblically, the untamed wilderness and chaotic seas remain strictly under divine authority. And number three, human limits are fundamental. Quantum mechanics and nonlinear systems prove the universe is never fully predictable. Wisdom literature, the Bible, insists that humans must hold humility before the mystery of creation. As a result, we have diverging paths. Paths of who and paths of purpose. Science explains what and how, and on that path it explains the order through impersonal natural laws. It remains strictly neutral on inherent meaning and studies ongoing observable processes without a defined end goal. Empirical results is what science looks for. The other path we see is the who and the why. That path comes from Scripture. It attributes cosmic order to a personal creator or to a designer. It insists creation has intentional moral direction, and it points toward ultimate restoration and purposeful design. So we're back at our starting point. Two lenses, one reality. But there is tension between science and Scripture. But it dissolves when viewed not as competing theories, but as answers to different layers of the exact same reality. Once again, science explores how order arises and behaves, the mechanism. Faith explores why order exists and what it means. The source comes from the designer. Order provides stability. Chaos provides change. Without order, nothing endures. Without chaos, nothing changes. The universe allows real novelty and free will without ever abandoning its foundational order. Chaos does not negate purpose. It is the very engine that allows meaning to unfold. Genesis begins with, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. The biblical claim is not merely temporal, meaning that the message, promises, and truth of the Bible are not limited to a specific time, historical moment, or passing worldly circumstances. The universe is contingent. It does not have to exist, could have been different, and relies on external causes for its being. This concept suggests the universe is not self-explanatory and requires a necessary non-contingent cause. It infers design. Modern cosmology now affirms what ancient Scripture asserted. Reality is not eternal and self-sustaining, meaning it had a beginning, relies on an external cause for its existence, and is not inherently permanent. It infers design. It began. There was a point when the universe was created. The scientific evidence does not prove Christianity, nor can it, but it removes the intellectual comfort of cosmic self-existence. This is the faith hypothesis. Our investigation continues. whispers of deep time, listens carefully to the data and to what the data may be whispering. I hope that you will tune in to our bi-weekly exploration of the cosmos as we bridge the divide between science and faith. Until next time, this is Alan saying goodbye.